Hello and welcome back. Today I've actually finished all of the major grinding of rust that needed doing on the car. All the major components are now done. The chassis, the suspension and so forth. There will be quite a few minor parts that need work on, but the major parts, the parts that would allow me to build a rolling chassis, are now done. They still need to be painted and so forth, but at least the really dirty, messy, long, boring, noisy parts are over. The long, boring, painting parts are still to come, but we're moving on. So I thought it would be an appropriate time just to give a quick update on where I am with everything. Okay, so here's the underside of the chassis. I did the top side before. Now, as expected, of course, the underside's always going to be worse. But what I notice is there are a few parts where it's a bit pinholey here, and I am ever more convinced than I've been that these legs have been cut off too short by the previous owner of the chassis, and I'm going to have to come for a workaround for the rear, the seatbelt supports. I think the existing system isn't going to work as such because I think it bolted on about here. So we'll see. Aside from the usual dents and stuff you would expect underneath it, the problems start at the front of the car, because we've got some rust holes here, so this needs to be welded, and there's some more over here, and that extends down onto the chassis leg. All of this stuff really looks like it's rotting from the inside out, which is not surprising with these chassis, and in the long run I probably need a new chassis, but it would not a Citroen one, but one of the aftermarket ones. And some of this welding on the bottom here is not great. There's a couple of holes down here that I'd like to probably get something done about. I don't know whether that will or not. Now, so this needs to be done, but I'm thinking not to do the welding just yet. I've got a week off shortly, and I could use this time to try and stuff the chassis in the back of the car and take it down to my local Citroen guy, and get him to weld this up for me. The alternative is that my welder is still sitting there, having never been turned on, never plugged in, never turned on. But frankly, I think it would be quite a while before I'd be up to welding this up to the standard it needs to be, so that's probably not going to happen. But it's an interesting thought, because it is going to take me a little while. Given that I'm going to have to do something with these, I think, for the seatbelt mountings, and I can't do it until I've got the car mocked up in the dry build, that's when I'll find out. It might be best to actually wait till I take it the dry build apart, then get it welded, and then get the car put back together. Seems to be in a slightly more logical chain of events. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's it for this. Right, while I'm over here, the gearbox, I took the drum off the other side and realised it is just as oily as this side. That leaves me with a real quandary as to just where the oil is coming from, but I reckon it's a high enough probability that the seals have gone, possibly on both output shafts, to take them apart, which is why if I can get out of my own shadow, this side is now missing its output shaft, and it's now sitting in here. So this is the drum. So that's the part we see over there. So that's what the drive shaft bolts do. And this is the part that goes into the gearbox. Now this is an interesting point. I've always believed that the drum brake gearbox, and I really need some lighting over this side, the drum brake gearbox was different to disc brake gearboxes. I don't know why, but I always assumed that when they made the change they redid the gearboxes in some way. Looking at the catalogues and reading around, it looks like the gearboxes are the same, and they just changed this. Very much looks like that the disc ones are pretty much this without the backing plate, but reading around there's different length splines, so I don't know whether or not there actually is anything internal or not. If there isn't, then it could mean I've got more spare gearboxes if this one blows. And this one I've cleaned up a bit now so that I can actually work on it. So I'm going to take the other side drum off and see if I can actually take this apart. I'm not sure whether I can. It doesn't seem possible to turn the light on with the camera on when it's recording. Down in here there's a nut here and it's pinned on here. Now I'm not really sure how easy that's going to be to undo, but with that unpinned and the nut removed, this is a press fit and it should just push out. And then inside there, I don't know whether it's possible to really see, behind the nut there is these seals and a bearing and so forth. So that's where the oil seal is sitting. So that's the plan. Both of these off. If I can't fix it, then these will go down to my TCV guy, and he'll be able to do them for me. But I'd like to have a go at myself if I can. Now, having gloated that I didn't need to replace the bearings on my front axle, I cocked up when taking the track or the steering arms off of these. I bought the special purpose puller because I really didn't like the way I'd done it before, and then I did something really stupid and ended up not only breaking my puller but also damaging this side here, and with the result that I'm not really sure what's exactly gone wrong, but aside from the fact I've buggered up the threads on this, which I think I can recover with a bit more filing, because as it stands at the moment this nut here just doesn't go on to here. It just doesn't quite catch the threads. So, and I've played with it for a while. I think I need to be a bit more aggressive. I'm just being a bit of a pansy with it. But as it stands, the problem I've got is that this is starting to it spins, and I don't know what's supposed to hold it in place, because obviously this is actually a ball joint in the back. This nut has just got a ball on the back which allows it to move, and although it's held in one plane by this square nut down in here, in actual fact it looks like it's just a ball on the back end of it. But what I don't really understand is if this spins, how will I ever be able to torque it back up? So I decided to cut my losses and use my other front axle, which I'd already removed the steering arms from. So this is what I'm going to be using. This one I can probably rebuild at some point. That does all come apart, but I'll probably take it to my TCV guy because it's even more tools. It's a bit of a pain to take apart. You've got to drill stuff out and use special tools to take the various bits apart. And Citroen, it's turned out, I've been a real pain in the backside with threads on these, because there's M9s all over the place, and it's a size that nobody else uses nowadays. So anyway, so this is it as it stands. The bit that I was gloating about, of course, is the fact that I'm not really sure that I can use these bearings. I've not checked to see if they're okay. So I might have to buy a complete set of new bearings for these, because of course these are on here, and I don't know whether the arms, I could use the arms that belonged on here, but I'd rather keep them as spares. So it might mean I need to spend even more money buying more bearings, and these are quite expensive bearings because they're quite big. Suspension canisters are now stripped, and this has all this stuff's been, it's looking black because it's been phosphoric coated. Now this one here, there's a bit of rust in the end cap, which is a bit of a pain. Otherwise they all seem good. I have some longer term plans for these, so we'll see, but as it stands, that's there. Drive shafts are painted, just waiting to be greased and reassembled. I've got the various gaiters. I have the bearings for the rear axles ready to go on, and the new seals. I need to order some gaskets for these end arms, but I've got the seals, I've got everything I need to rebuild them, so aside from the gaskets that go on the end of the arms. So more parts to buy, but yeah, so these arms, this is my problem. These are the bearing races. In theory they should work. I'm just a little bit reluctant to sit mismatched these bearings and not from these. Will they work? Won't they work? I don't know. So anyway, this is where I am now. I need to learn to weld. I need someone to show me how to weld, or I need to try and do it myself. So that's where we are. Okay, great. I will press on and catch you soon. Thanks for watching.